Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. Now today I've got a very special guest to talk about the Newcastle game. Obviously Arsenal did win, but I thought why not get an opposition fan to talk about the game. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I hope you're well. You probably are after Sunday.
Yeah, very happy.
Yeah, I thought you might be. I saw a few tweets from you after Sunday's game. Yeah, it.
We'll have a chat about it.
Yeah, if we have to, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did want to start off with. I think it was a big talking point of the game. Obviously, Newcastle did have a penalty. It was overturned, and I know you were at the game, so it probably was hard to see. But I think for me,
I was right behind it.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Look, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, when I first saw it, from real time, I didn't see it hit his leg. His hand clearly came out. It hit his hand. But then I've watched it back numerous times, and look, I still don't know. I don't think anybody can 100% categorically say it is or it isn't. If that's the case, though, what I would say is that maybe the referee shouldn't have, he gave the original penalty, and the fact that it took so long makes it not clear and obvious. So it shouldn't have been overturned. But look, at the end of the day, it wasn't given, and you guys went on to win.
Yeah, the thing is, though, for me, is that, like, obviously, I will take that and not have the penalty because it's probably good for us. But I think I've watched it a lot, and I don't think it's massively obvious that I did touch his leg, if I'm being honest. Like, I think it looked like a bit, but I think it was a difficult decision, really, because I think that would have changed things in the game because I think Newcastle came out, like, I think they just went for it. And obviously, you hit the post early on as well. And I think if you scored that penalty, that would have. I don't know if Arsenal would have won. To be honest, I think it changed things.
That would have been pretty interesting had Murphy scored there, because obviously it was inside the first 2 minutes, and we did that against Spurs, and look what happened in that. I'm not saying we would have went on to do that against you guys, because you're a far better team than Tottenham, but it would have been interesting. It would have been interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd have done if they would have scored that, because I wouldn't want a repeat of last time with, like, not turning up. But Newcastle did have, like, a lot of chances in the game. I lost count of how many times you hit the crossbar. Honestly, it happened so much.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I mean, the first half, we huffed and puffed. I think when Odegaard scored, which wasn't long after the penalty incident, I think that kind of was a punch in the guts for the Newcastle players, and we kind of lost our way a little bit. Arsenal, for me, controlled the midfield throughout the game, and that's where the game was won. I thought Xhaka was superb. I thought his defensive play was brilliant. He was running back and forwards. Jorginho played well. And our guys didn't quite turn up. Bruno had an off day, but he's apparently carrying an ankle injury, which has been getting more and more serious as the season's gone on now. And I think he's looking at surgery in the summer. Joe Linton wasn't quite at it. But listen, it was Arsenal didn't trounce us. We weren't over Arsenal. I think it was quite an even game, if I'm honest. The second goal was just one of them. Martinelli drills it across, and it could have hit anybody and gone in. That was just one of those things. Martinelli did the right thing, drilling it hard across the box, and you got your rewards for that. But apart from that, I think the game was quite even. The referee, for me, ruined it, Sophie, if I'm openly honest.
I thought he was terrible,
ruined it. I mean, obviously, I've got my gripes as a Newcastle fan, and I've seen some of the Arsenal fans, and I spoke to some Arsenal fans, after the game on Sunday, and they feel the same way about the referee, that he wasn't maybe protecting the Arsenal players. We felt that he wasn't hard enough on your tactics, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But he's one of the worst in the league by a long shot.
I just think like the referee had no control over the game because
No.
I think on each side, I'm not just going to say at Newcastle because I guess Arsenal fans we will say that, but in general of the game, I've just thought there was a lot of like stuff going on. The referee, it didn't really give much yellow cards out. I felt like
Yeah.
to either side, like I will say that to either side because it was a very close game. I will say, and that referee. I don't think he defined the result because, like you said, I do think Arsenal were better, but like it was an even game.
At the
I
end of the day,
thought.
Sophie, you took your chances.
Yeah,
And,
I
you know,
think it was about being clinical because I do think Arsenal could have scored more, but I do think Newcastle should have scored more as well because, like, I thought Joe Willock as well had made a great chance. But I did want to talk about the goalkeepers, like with Ramsdale with Pope because I thought they were both really good. I think Pope denied Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard on so many chances, and it helped you stay in the game. Do you think with sort of the chances Arsenal had, the chances that you guys had, do you think that the players should have done better, or do you just think it was just great goalkeeping from the
I think Fabian Schär's header. I think he probably should have done a bit better than that. I know there wasn't a lot of time for him, and you know, kind of. But listen, Ramsdale and Pope are very, very good goalkeepers. Each have their own faults, if you like. But they are top of the tree when it comes to English goalkeepers. I think the save that Nick Pope made from Odegaard right at the end of the first half was an incredible reflex save. Odegaard did nothing wrong there. He tried to bury it in the corner, but Nick Pope read it. And, you know, had that gone in, it was 2-0 just before half-time. It's game over. But Ramsdale made some cracking saves as well. And I think, you know, let's be honest, that could have been 4-4 on Sunday. It could have been another one of those 4-4s. But, you know, the goalkeepers are of such a high quality for both sides. I thought Nick Pope's kicking wasn't great, if I'm honest. His clearances were a little bit iffy. But Ramsdale looked solid the whole game. And, you know, at the end of the day, that made the difference. You know, referee aside, I think you're right. Arsenal took their chances and we didn't. But that's football, I guess. I made a lot of Arsenal's tactics after the game on Sunday, which, upon reflection, I kind of take them back a little bit because, you know what, we've done that to teams plenty this season where we at the Emirates, we stifled you guys and came away with something. You guys did the same thing to us. You had a game plan, you stuck to the game plan, and you went away with 3 points. And at this stage of the season, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's all about getting the 3 points, no matter what performance you put in. But Arsenal knew what they had to do on Sunday, and they came and did it. And you know, upon reflection, if that was the other way around and Newcastle won by playing like that, I'd be jumping off the rooftop. So, you know, it is what it is, and Arsenal got the points.
Yeah, I think so. I think with me that I was listening to Gary Neville and he was saying how he thinks. Yeah, I know. I was listening to it because I thought it was a bit unfair to say that some of the players should have done better with their chances because I just think the goalkeepers like Ramsdale and Pope, I just think they're excellent, and I think it's more about how good they were, not about the chances we should have took because, like, obviously, taking chances wins you the game, but I just think. Like, I don't want that to deflect. I want the goalkeepers to get that credit because I think they deserve that. And I don't think it's fair to put that on the players and they should have, like, scored them because I think like, with Nick Pope, I think he's an excellent goalkeeper, like Ramsdale. And I think, like you said, the result could have been 4-4. It could have been anything. It was just such a crazy game. And I know going to the game, we did speak about, you know, Arsenal were struggling with, like, confidence. We hadn't won. Bar Chelsea, we struggled to win a few of our games. Were you, like, surprised with, like, how well Arsenal played?
No, because I've been very impressed with Arsenal this season. That, you know, and I've said this to you before, Sophie, as you know, I was rooting for Arsenal to win the Premier League. I was hoping you guys would be still about 6-7 points ahead of City at this stage, where it wouldn't matter if you lost to Newcastle, you know. But Arsenal surprised me with the midfield. I think Jorginho surprised me, but Xhaka was the one that surprised me. And the second half run he made from an attacking position to run all the way back and block Joe Willock's shot, I thought that was incredible. And it just seems to me like, obviously he had that trouble a few years back with the fans and everything like that, and they wanted him out and things, but he's turned it round full circle. And, I thought he was excellent. He took a bad tackle from Fabian Schär in the first half, but he recovered from that. The fans were having a bit of a dig at him for going down, but it was a bad tackle, if I'm honest. But again, talking about the referee, Sophie, Fabian Schär should have probably been booked for that and wasn't. And, there was a few of the tackles went in on each side that probably merited yellow cards. But because the referee had no backbone, both sides thought they could get away with everything. And there were, that's what caused, I think, that kerfuffle before half time and all of that stuff. That came around because the referee had no backbone and because he had no authority on the game throughout that first half. And to be fair to the players, if they think they're going to get away with it, then they're going to continue to do it. But going back to the goalkeepers, I think they get a bit of a rough ride, goalkeepers, in my opinion, because if they play really well, it's always, they should have scored. That was a great chance. If we look at the Odegaard one just before half time, Nick Pope's reflexes were superb there. But they want to focus more on, Odegaard should have scored. I mean, yes, he probably should have scored, but he had a bloody good goalkeeper in front of him.
Exactly.
Fabian Schär should have scored that header, but he had a bloody good goalkeeper in front of him. I mean, Ramsdale pulled off some crackers. So did Nick Pope. And I think that, for me, was two England goalkeepers challenging Jordan Pickford, because two goalkeepers on their game. As I say, Pope's kicking was a bit iffy, but for me, the two of them, I haven't got a problem if one of them came in and took over from Pickford, because I know what both of them could do. I saw for myself. That's the first time I think I've seen Ramsdale play like that, and he's hopefully going to be an Arsenal goalkeeper for years to come for you guys, because it was a surprise that you signed him, but my God, he's done fantastic. So I just think they get a bad rap. I don't think it's fair. Even when we do our play ratings on our shows, and Nick Pope's had nothing to do sometimes in our games, and you think, well, what do you rate them out of 10? Because you've come away with like if we say West Ham away when we won down there 5-1, and you come back and do the play ratings, and you think, right, what can I give him? We've won 5-1, but he didn't have a lot to do, but he let a goal in. But that's a little harsh, because you're scoring high on the outfield players, but the goalkeepers don't seem to get the same, because obviously they don't have a lot to do. It's but it is. It's crazy at times, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the goalkeepers definitely deserve more credit for how they played, and I think it was a very close game. I think both teams. I think even Newcastle, obviously, it's disappointing you didn't win, but I think you did really put effort in, because you had so many chances. Like us, it was just end-to-end football. And obviously, last time we played you, we missed out to Champions League football. I think it was very painful to do that. And I know in Arteta's press conference, he did say about getting revenge, like how important it was. And after that painful defeat last year, do you think that had a big impact, and why Arsenal probably showed desire, that passion to win, because they wouldn't want a repeat from that last season?
Yes, I mean, we all saw how Arteta reacted in the dressing room after that game last season. He basically read the riot act in a certain way, which was quite impressive. And I think Arsenal are second in the table because they are the second best team in the Premier League. There's no doubt in my mind, and they're coming off the back of a few disappointing results. Where they've held 2-0 leads and they've been pegged back, and then of course the disaster at the Etihad, where I don't think you guys turned up. It was that's where I expected more. But I said, before the game, I was looking. My head said a 2-2. My heart wanted us to win 3-1 or something like that, but I did go for a 2-2 because I thought it would be two teams really going at each other and attacking and going for it, and there would be goals in the game. The game didn't pan out like that to such because you guys came with a different game plan to what I thought you would, but it worked. and we just have to take the beating on the chin and go again. But Arsenal are second because they are a very, very good football team. And I think most of the Newcastle fans, would rather see Arsenal win it than Manchester City, just for something different. But Arsenal, considering where you've come from last year with all the Arteta out stuff, he's turned it around. And but you were impressive. The one player I think I was disappointed with, I have to be honest, is Saka. Because I was looking forward to seeing him, because when teams like Arsenal or the big teams come to St James's, you support Newcastle obviously, but you want to see these star players that you see playing for England, and you want to see the top players in the Premier League. I was just disappointed how many times he went down very, very easily. He had Dan Burn on toast a few times, but chose to go down when he could have just leapt around him and gone for it like he normally does. But all in all, there's some tremendous players in that Arsenal side, and I thought Jesus was just absolutely magnificent. He went down a couple of times to rile the crowd up. I mean, somebody put on, I don't know whether you saw it, Sophie, but the tackle on Fabian Schär on Jesus on the halfway line. Somebody had cut that right down to just show the clash of the arm into Jesus's head, when the bottom half didn't show how well he won the ball. It was a good, hard, old-fashioned tackle. And Jesus wasn't hurt because he went down off the pitch and then still had the nous to think, right, I'm going to roll back onto the pitch and get a few seconds off the clock. Now, that was just before, I think, half-time. So you kind of think, oh, no, it might have been in the second half, that I'm not sure. But whatever it was gamesmanship. And I've got no problem with that. But I thought his work rate, considering he didn't have a lot of real chances, his work rate up front was just phenomenal. Really impressed.
Yeah, I think with Jesus, what I'd noticed is as well as he was good going forward, when Newcastle were a threat going forward, he would sort of track back and defend and help the team. And I think with the game, I think a lot of the players turned up, which I hope they would, because I don't think anyone wanted a repeat of last season. But I think regarding the referee, I think I will say on both sides it was probably a bit of it's hard to explain, because in Newcastle, I think some of the players can be a bit rough at times. I think if the referee would have given more decisions either way, would have helped. But I think Arsenal played well. I guess because we played Chelsea going into this game before you guys, I think because it's Chelsea and they haven't had the best season, I was a bit like, we should win that game. So I think, to me, it just showed you how good Arsenal were. But talking on Newcastle's performance, you did have a lot of chances. But were you happy with that performance, or did you expect them to kind of perform better, or were you okay with the performance?
Do you know, I guess I was happy with the performance, and it seems like when we did our review show last night, a lot of fans were happy with the performance. We matched you guys in certain areas, but you won the game in midfield for me. You were better than us in midfield. Bruno and Joe Linton weren't quite at the races. Joe Willock was in and out of the game, but Joe's been fantastic for us. But Joe Linton and Bruno, the two Brazilians, weren't quite at the races. So I think that's why you guys overpowered us in midfield. And that's where the game, for me, was won, because you wouldn't allow us to get into the game. And I think you're right about the referee, because there was some very dodgy tackles going in from both sides. But we do play like that. We're very intense. We are an intense side. We like to get stuck in. That's just something that Eddie Howe has engraved in the Newcastle side this season, which has worked mostly. It didn't work against Villa. It hasn't worked against Arsenal. But, it may well work against Leeds. I don't think you'll play the same team against Leeds. We had Isak and Wilson starting that game on Sunday, which it's the first time that they've started together. And it didn't quite work. You kept Isak quite quiet on the left, but, there was a few little flashes. But I thought Wilson was just, I think we scored him a 4 in our player ratings. He just couldn't get into the game. Whereas last season, he bossed the two centre backs from Arsenal, but it was complete reverse this time. And I was really impressed with I mean, Gabriel. We know what he's like, but the other guy, I can't remember I can't see his name, to be honest.
Like Kivio or something.
Yeah, that's him. But considering the Arsenal fans were a bit worried about him, I think he was absolutely brilliant. He kept Wilson very quiet. You know, some of the balls we tried to play up through the middle, were reading very quickly, and we couldn't get Callum into the game as much as I think they wanted to. I would have been interested to see how Arsenal would have reacted had we scored that goal in the first 2 minutes. What that would have done for Arsenal's confidence, because would it have spurred them on, or would it have made them just sort of come back into the shell? But it didn't happen, and when you scored, I think that was it.
I think, like, even if, say, you didn't get penalty anyway, you could have scored in that first half, and I suppose because we were only 1-0 up, obviously we did have them chances, but we were only 1-0 up, so you guys could have scored, and I think if you did score, I definitely think it would have been a different game, because not only the fans would be like, you would hear the crowds even more than you can. And I guess when you're 1-0 down, or if you draw in, after, because we've been recently in a position where we score and then we concede. So I think that would probably knock our confidence a lot if we had conceded as well. But I think it was just a very competitive game. Like,
I think we paid you a lot more respect than I thought we would. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean, like, you know, we stood off. Second half is, you know, sitting in the leasers watching you guys attacking us. I just felt we stood off you too much. You know, we weren't at our normal intensity where we'll shut down very quickly. You know, we'll scurry around to win the ball and things like that. We just didn't do that. And that sort of happened when Martinelli got all the way at the byline. I don't know where Kieran Trippier was, but Botman just stood off him all the way to the byline, and Martinelli thought, right, well, if you're going to let me go there, that's where I'm going to go. And of course, he drills it across the box. Listen, Cher's got to try and clear it. He's got to try, because he's got, I think it was Jesus just behind him to tap the ball in. It was just one of them unlucky ricochets that, you know, could have gone anywhere, but it went in the net. But they're the differences in these big games sometimes. You know, you make your luck sometimes, and Martinelli did that. But I was disappointed that we backed off so much. But listen, at the end of the day, if Arsenal are commanding that respect, then so be it. But I just thought we stood off us a little too much in the second half.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, with that second goal, I think it was deserved for Arsenal to get maybe another goal, but I think it was an own goal for that one, and I was surprised how Martinelli managed to squeeze the cross in the box as well.
It was mad, because, you know, I was watching Botman, and I think there was a couple of yards between them, and Botman's obviously got his arms behind his back. But I'm thinking, get closer to him, stop this ball coming across.
There was quite a lot of space, wasn't there, for Martinelli to get it in?
I mean, I didn't like Martinelli's reaction with the crowd. I thought, just look up to the Arsenal fans and cheer them. You know what I mean? You don't have to wind the Newcastle fans up. But some players are like that, I guess. It's the way football is these days. But,
yeah, because do you know what is with me? Like, I'm not just saying this, but like, if I'm in their position, I would want to celebrate with my own fans personally.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I mean, if it's Tottenham, then different. You can wind the Tottenham fans up, but
well, we saw it late as well in the Brighton-Everton game, didn't we? And McNeil, I think, scored the 5th goal, and it's been highlighted all over social media. It slows it right down, where he's gone right to the corner where the Brighton fans are, and the Brighton fans are giving him what for. I mean, you can imagine the hand gestures and things like that he's getting, but you can lip read some of the Brighton fans as well, and it's just turn and celebrate. You know, there's no need. Brighton fans are already going to be riled up the fact that they're 5-1 down.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
It doesn't help, you know. But I think when that goal went in on Sunday, I think that killed the game. You know, we tried bringing St. Maximan on. We moved Isak into the middle. Maxi was denied by another good save from Ramsdale. But like I say, it was more huff and puff from us. We couldn't get into the game too much.
Yeah.
And when you've got your best players, you know, Joe Linton and Bruno, not quite at the races against the quality of Xhaka, Jorginho, etc., you're going to struggle. And that's how it turned out.
Yeah, I definitely think though in midfield, like you said, Jorginho had a great game. I think him and Xhaka, I think they just work well. And I know when I was on your show, you were saying about, would Arteta make that move? Would he be brave enough to bring him in? Obviously, you watch your team, but were you surprised to see like Arteta bring Jorginho in, because it was a big game? Arsenal did have to
Yeah.
win this game because we are in the title race. Man City are ahead of us, but with how well Jorginho played, were you like surprised to see him in the starting lineup?
I was, because obviously in the build-up, we mentioned to you when you came on our show about it, you weren't sure if he would do it. And speaking to some of the Arsenal fans before the game, before the teams came out, they were saying probably 80% of them were saying no, he won't. And then when the teams came out and we saw him in, it was a bit of a surprise, but it was a gutsy move, and it paid off, didn't it? Those kind of moves are what makes a manager. That's what they're paid for, to make these gutsy moves. Eddie Howe made a gutsy move by playing Isak and Wilson together. Didn't quite work on Sunday, but it worked for Arsenal. These are the little things that can swing the game for you.
Yeah, because like for me, I would much rather a manager go for something different, because at least they've tried it, and listen, it's not worked out, but at least you give it a go. Because I know with Arteta at times, like I think he likes to play safe sometimes with the players, like Zinchenko. He likes him in the team because I think managers might have their favourite players. So I think for me, see Jorginho, I was really happy, and I thought he had an excellent game with Xhaka. I think he wore the ball back a lot. I think going in possession going forward, I've noticed as well when he's under pressure, he can kind of deal with that with the ball and knowing where to pass it at the right time. So I think that's what I like to see from Arteta more, because Partey, I think for me, with how Newcastle started, I honestly thought for a second, are we going to get battered? Because the tempo of the game at the start was very fast, and I think it helped having like Jorginho in the side, because I think he makes me feel quite calm, and I just think he was I think Arteta, got it right. And I think, if he tried it and he didn't get it right, I'd have been like, you know what, you've tried it, and I'm happy that you've gone for that. But I did.
Well, once the game settled down, Sophie, it was blatantly obvious to see that, once those first 5-10 minutes were out the way, when we tried to break like we normally do through the middle, Bruno holding onto the ball, but he was being knocked off the ball very, he wasn't his normal self, where he would hold the ball and get into positions the same as Joe Linton, where they can get out of little tight situations and then get us on a breakaway. It didn't happen because Jorginho and Xhaka are very much sort of defensive players and stifled us on many occasions. And I think that's what, as I say, that's certainly what a big part of you winning the game.
Yeah, I agree, because I think for me, if we would have played Partey's been great this season, probably one of our better players, but I think the issue, like, if he gave the ball away to you, you'd probably have taken them chances. I mean, I know you didn't take so many chances, but I think, I just didn't want us to be sloppy, and I'm really glad we weren't, because like the way you beat Spurs so convincingly, comfortably as well. I was worried that if Jorginho wasn't in, that wouldn't be the case, because Jorginho offers the stability in this Arsenal team that I think we need right now. So yeah, I think we definitely won it in midfield, but like you said, it was a very even game.
Well, we missed Longstaff, to be fair, so if he's been a subject of a lot of the fans haven't been too happy with Longstaff, and I don't know why, because he's been a linchpin for us this season with his defensive work. Him in the side gives Bruno a chance to move around a lot easier, play the ball a lot easier. He does a lot of the dirty work that doesn't get noticed by the fans. And when he hasn't been in the side, we've truly missed him. And, it was clear that we missed him again, because he would have given us something different. He would have done the dirty work on Sunday, which would have freed up Bruno to play more attacking. But, it's one of them. If you miss your kind of, those players don't get recognised by the fans a lot and don't get the praise that they should. And I feel that's happened with Sean this season, where him being missing from the lineup has just Bruno doesn't play the same sort of game when he's not there.
Yeah, because I've noticed that, like, say with like Arsenal, say if Xhaka's not, if he's ill and he can't play, it's only till they're out of the team that you realise how important they are in the team. So I think, yeah, I definitely think that's the case. And I did want to ask you about Arsenal before we go on to talk about Eddie Howe and what he's done at Newcastle. As someone that's outside of Arsenal, we do know Man City have, I think it might be 2 games in hand or 1 game in hand. Obviously, this result would be great for our confidence. Like for you, as someone who's outside of it, what do you think about like Arsenal's chances of winning the league? We know Man City have to drop points, but do you think for Arsenal fans we should still have hope that we can do it?
I think if he'd have lost that game on Sunday, for me that would be it. But the fact that you've won that, and then obviously a few days before that you've beaten Chelsea convincingly as well. It's never over. And, we've seen so many times in the past that we write things off too quickly. Last week we were celebrating getting 1 foot in the Champions League door. It's not done yet. There's 4 games left. And those 4 games, if you look at those 4 games we've got Leeds, who are battling relegation. We've got Leicester, who are battling relegation. We've got Brighton, who are looking for a European place. So there's only the Chelsea away game at the end of the season. Chelsea have a sort of dead rubber. So with Arsenal, they just have to keep hoping and just dealing with their own games and playing your own stuff. Get 3 points each game, take it game by game, and you never know. If City drop points, they drop points. They are capable of an off day. We've seen that with Man City many, many times. The only problem is we never see it during a run-in. They always seem to just blitz everybody on the run-in if they're chasing something down. I think Arsenal have the knowledge of knowing that City is still in the Champions League. So there's extra games there and difficult games. They've got Real Madrid tonight, then the second leg. So you never know if Guardiola might mix it up a little bit for the Premier League games, and somebody might catch City on an off day. How likely that is, I don't know. But the fact that you guys are still in it, you can never give up until it's impossible.
Yeah, that's how I feel, really. I think the Newcastle game was a big test for us. I think if we would have drawn with you guys, I don't think I would have been confident about us winning the league, because like Man City, I just think they just play like perfect football right now. They're doing really good. I think it will be. I think even as a fan, not even as an Arsenal fan, as a fan, you can just watch the football and think, I'm really loving what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
The style of play. Even as an Arsenal fan, it's frustrating. I just want them to lose points. But
I know.
I look at the players they have and I just think, wow. And it's annoying because I just think this was the perfect season, because for me, with Xhaka, there's been rumours that he might leave in the summer. And I just thought this would be the perfect season for him to win the league. And I just felt like it was written in the stars because of how we bounced back. Say, Bournemouth, performances like that. And it just feels like the West Ham, the Southampton game has sort of costed us. But I try not to look at that, because I do think Arsenal have had a really good season. And no one would have thought we would be in our position right now. So I think I'll be happy with second. And obviously with Champions League football next season, I think that'll be amazing.
But there's my point about anything that could happen though. So if you look, nobody gave Southampton a hope in hell's chance of going to the Emirates and getting something. And look what happened. So
it's crazy.
You guys as fans need to look at that and think, well, if it can happen to us, why can't Man City drop points somewhere in the last few games? I mean, I know it's doubtful, and I know there's only a slight percentage of a chance of that happening, but it could.
Still can happen.
Yeah. So I think that's why the win was so important for you guys. For us, we lost the game, but then Manchester United went and lost to West Ham. So we are kind of as you were. When it comes to that. Liverpool obviously winning and catching up, but us as Newcastle fans were thinking, oh God, Liverpool are catching, but we're 2 points ahead of Manchester United. So it's Man United that a minute have got to worry about Liverpool. We just have to take care of ourselves. It's still in our hands. And that's why you just never say never in football, because you just don't know what's around the corner, especially in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think for you guys, you definitely, like Arsenal, I think you've just got to win your remaining games. But I guess it's hard because I guess with Leeds, I know it's like Man City, but I thought they could have maybe got something at the end. But for Eddie Howe, he's done a fantastic job with Newcastle, and I think he will get in the top four. I think United are going through a bit of a phase where they're making silly mistakes. Maybe they're struggling under the pressure that they're put under. Say you came third, you came fourth. Do you think that is like an overachievement? Because last season I think you were 11th, but you were going through like a transition with a new ownership, a new manager. And I didn't think you guys would have came the top four. I thought maybe you'd get into Europe. So do you think that Eddie Howe's probably overachieved?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, if you'd look at our shows at the start of the season when we did our predictions and things like that, we'd have been happy top 8, to be honest. The season that we had before where, we finished 11th, but at some stage it looked like we were doomed. When that's absolute abysmal manager, who I'm not going to name, took us to the bottom of the Premier League. And then Eddie came in and just sort of transformed everything. And you know what it is? I mean, people will always say about, but the money. We've spent nothing, Sophie. When we look at other teams, we look at Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, etc.
Yeah, Chelsea.
We spent nothing like them. Liverpool spending 80 million quid on Gakpo. We haven't done that. Bruno was our most expensive. Isak's our most expensive now at 60. But, we've only brought a couple of players in. We haven't exactly just thrown the whole squad out the window. 80% of this squad are what Steve Bruce had. So when people throw the money thing at us, it kind of confuses me because we haven't spent anywhere near as some of the other teams. It's down to the manager. Joe Linton, if you just take him, he was written off completely by me and thousands of other Newcastle fans. We thought this guy was a joke. He moves him into midfield and he becomes an absolute titan, and he's now my favourite Newcastle player. Yet I wanted him out the door 2 years ago. It's an incredible turnaround. You look at some of the other players, Jacob Murphy, Fabian Schär never got a look in under Steve Bruce, incredibly. But he's formed a tremendous partnership with Botman. Dan Burn was brought in as a centre-back. They've moved him to the left. He's done all right. Is he my ideal left back? No, but he's done a job there. So you've got to look and think, right, what has Eddie done with the players that were already there? The likes of Longstaff, Callum Wilson firing again, Jacob Murphy coming back into the side. There's Joe Willock stepping it up again. There's a lot of things happened under Eddie Howe that I think a lot of opposition fans won't see because of all the media attention on the money and the ownership and things like that. At the end of the day, Eddie goes to work to do his job as Newcastle United manager. He's not bothered about the ownership or anything like that. He's a football manager. We try and keep the politics out of our shows because it's bollocks. We don't want to talk about politics, but we tend to stick to the football. And if you look at the way Eddie Howe's managed the team and got us playing, the last 15 years for Newcastle fans have been just a nightmare, an honest nightmare. Under Mike Ashley. And then these guys have come in, they've given the club back to the fans, the communication's completely different now. They listen to the fans, they're out there speaking to the fans. On a match day, the owners are walking around the ground and they're meeting people and things like that. And it's incredible. It really is incredible, considering what it was like. But Eddie Howe has transformed this because of the team he's given us on the pitch, the football that we're now seeing. And I think this sort of, Newcastle, Arsenal, Newcastle, Man United, Liverpool are going to be huge games in the future because we are now going to be at the top table with you guys. And I think that can only enhance the Premier League, even though the Premier League don't want that. That's a story for another day. But I think it's fantastic to have a couple of other clubs up there. You know, Villa's up there now. Brighton's up there. It's nice to have a bit of variety and a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I think it's nice really because it's nice to see different teams up there. You know, the last few years I think it's been really Man City, Liverpool, and I'm just happy for there to be different teams. Obviously, I never thought Arsenal would be challenging or be around that sort of position, and I think for Newcastle, because of how I saw you play under your manager to now, I think it's not always about results. It's about, as a fan, being happy with the performances. Like, there's been times where Arsenal haven't won, but I thought, you know what, we've put in such a good effort, such a good performance, and I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. And I just think it's amazing the job he's done. Like you said, there were players you probably didn't think were good enough or should have been playing, and he's just individually got the best out of each player. And I think that's what a good manager and a good coach does. And like with top four, like you do have, I think you've got Leeds, Brighton, and Chelsea coming up. Obviously they're really, like, it is in your hands.
I think we've got Leicester at home as well. So,
yeah,
like I said, the 3 games. If you take out Chelsea on the last day of the season, we've got Leeds, and we do not play well at a lunchtime on a Saturday, and I'm dreading it. But we should be good enough to beat Leeds. Leicester at home. Leicester seem to have down tools. Most of their players seem to have down tools from what I've seen. And then Brighton, who are still fighting for a European place. So there's still games left for us where we've got opposition that are fighting, and they're not just dead rubbers sitting in midfield, sitting in the middle of the table. Sorry, they've all got something to play for.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it harder because, like, you want to stay in top four, Brighton want to get into Europe, and you know Leeds are probably trying to stay up. So, I think it's quite difficult. Do you, like, obviously it's hard to say right now, but do you feel confident that you will maintain the top four this season, or it's hard, isn't it? Really? Yeah.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, Sophie, if I'm honest. It is nerve-wracking. I think if we go to Leeds on Saturday lunchtime and we get the 3 points there, then I'll be settled. I think we'll do it because, you know, with Leicester coming up at home, I think we'll beat Leicester. Like I say, I think
they've not been great, to be honest.
And Brighton, I'm not sure. You know, who'd have thought Everton would have gone to Brighton last night and beat them 5-1?
Brighton's a hard one, isn't it, really? Yeah. Because I think Arsenal's next game might be Brighton, I think, at the weekend. And I generally don't know what I think they'll be like, because this season I think they've been excellent, done really good.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And to get beat by Everton 5-1, it just doesn't make sense in my head. It's like crazy. So, like, I think the Premier League is so unpredictable. You never would have thought this. You know, us being in the top four. But talking on like Newcastle's future and like what's next for Newcastle. With like say in the summer, with players that you think you should bring in, who would you? Is there any players that you would like to bring in? And do you know your goals for next season? What would you say your expectations are?
I think it depends which European competition we're in. If we're in the Champions League, then I have a feeling that, you know, Amanda Staveley has come out on a couple of occasions and said that, you know, they want to win as much as they can. You know, they want to win the FA Cup, they want to win the Carabao, they want to win the Premier League, they want to win everything. That's the desire that they have. And for us, that's incredible, because the ambition Mike actually had was to finish 17th every season, and he didn't give a toss. You know, as long as his companies were making money through Newcastle United, it didn't matter. But now it's very different. We've got owners who don't need to use Newcastle United as a cash cow. They want to see, they've come into Newcastle United to win things by 300-400% by bringing a player who wants like £500,000 or £1 million a week. It's not going to happen. And then all these daft things that, because Ronaldo's playing in Saudi Arabia, if he doesn't work out there and he wants to come back to Premier League, he's going to come to Newcastle. No, he's not. He's not Eddie Howe's type of player for a start. And then you've got Messi. Well, Awe. Just because he's an ambassador for Saudi and things like that, they reckon that he's obviously a possibility. No. You know, we've been building, and I think that they won't. Yes, they'll bring in players that are capable of playing in the Champions League, will have Champions League experience, But what they won't do is just go out and splash the cash and just bring in players like Chelsea have, because that's just proved that it doesn't matter. You go into the transfer market, you bring 10, 15 players in willy-nilly. It doesn't make a team. You know, they don't play as a team.
Do you know what I saw about Arsenal? And I think, like, I like Declan Rice personally, but I saw something like 160 million for him. I just think that's crazy, to be honest. Like,
well, I think West Ham have come out today and said 120 million to a Champions League team. So, I mean, Declan Rice has been linked with us numerous times. He's linked with Arsenal as well. But are these clubs really going to spend 120 million pound on one player?
Like, I just don't. For me, I mean, it's not my money; it's their money, so I'm not bothered. But in my head, like, I just think of how many players you could get with that amount of money. Like, you could get like 3 players with.
We know we know the transfer fees are mental these days, aren't they?
I think with like the transfer stuff, I think things I see now, I take it like as a pinch of salt, because it's not happened yet, and it probably won't happen. Like, especially with ones you're getting, it's just really crazy.
Honestly, Sophie, if you look at the players we've been linked with in the last, probably even the last 3 weeks, right, we would have to be paying billions of pounds per week on wages. It just simply isn't going to happen. And a lot of these are clickbait websites that are saying, oh, you know, this could happen, that could happen. You could pay Messi in bonuses rather than a standard wage. And I'm thinking, how do we, man? You know, Messi's at the end of his career. I think personally, go back to Barca for a season before he retires. Neymar, no. Ronaldo, certainly not. It's just ridiculous. And these were the kind of names that were banded around when we were taking over. Oh, you're going to get Mbappe and all of this kind of rubbish. It's not like that. These guys that have been brought into Newcastle, the likes of Dan Ashworth and Darren Eales, etc., behind the scenes, you know, they've been bringing players slowly through the door. They've brought a lot of younger players in for the youth setup, because the youth setup was falling apart. The academy was terrible. And they've done a lot behind the scenes to bring younger players in. So that should be interesting next season as well. But for me, for Newcastle, it's just the continued growth, Sophie. You know, it's just don't take too big of a step. Just continue the progress. Yes, we're ahead of schedule by quite some way, I would imagine. But now that we're at that stage, take the next step, but don't rush it, because we've seen with many other teams, if you rush things like this, it falls apart very, very easily.
Yeah, I think with progress, it's good to like go sort of slow and steady in a sense. I mean, with Arteta and Eddie Howe, it's a bit different. It's taken us a long time to get where we are. I mean, we do have the same ownership, and I think I definitely see improvement. I think sort of like the last few years of Wenger, or the last decade, you could say, I think they cared about his club in America more than ours, more than his, really. So I definitely think Newcastle having like a new ownership has sort of, I just think that's what the club needed, because Newcastle had been a very successful club, and they've just gone down. And like, for me, as someone from the outside, I don't think you're a team that should be in relegation zone, near the relegation zone. You should be like, I think for me, sort of from the Champions League position to Europe, and hopefully, you know, in a few seasons try and challenge. But I did speak to a few Newcastle fans, and they said sort of what you're saying, maintaining what you're at the season. You know, I do think you will get Champions League football, but like, it's quite tight at the top, so it's hard to say. But
I think the Leeds game will dictate that. We'll if, like I say, if we get 3 points against Leeds, then I think we'll make it. It's a big game, this, for both sides. For us, bloody Allardyce, right? We know how he feels about Newcastle. You know, he'll take a jibe at us whenever he can. And the fact that he's now in charge of Leeds, you know, it's his first home game. Hopefully they won't get the new manager bounce. But I'm praying to God that they don't, to be honest.
Do you know what I thought was ridiculous? Didn't he say something like about Pep Arteta and Klopp or someone?
He's just as good as them, if not better. Yeah, the man has a very strange philosophy on life, and a strange philosophy on how to play football. You know, I think you know, he plays sort of football in a rugby style, if you like. It's dreadful football to watch.
Yeah, it's not beautiful football, is it?
No, it's not. And yeah, you can get away with that at Bolton Wanderers because you don't expect Bolton Wanderers, no disrespect.
You're not expected to play this like style of play, but
you have to play that way at teams like that where you're battling and scrapping for everything you can get. But when he came to Newcastle, you can't play that way with the players that he had at his disposal. It just and then he just slags us off all the time since then. So
I think it'd be good to get you just win against them. I'd love to see you batter them because you know what's funny is that, like, I noticed with him, he talks all the talk, and then when it comes to actually doing it, he doesn't really do it.
Yeah, he's a pain in the arse, and I just hope we beat them because apart from him, we need the 3 points, and I think if we get them on Saturday, I think we're almost there. And then it would be sort of Man United worrying about Liverpool.
They may not even get top 4 United.
Exactly.
I would love that. I think that would be amazing.
Oh, can you imagine how many people across the UK would be delighted that the Manchester Reds haven't made the Champions League? It will be hilarious. I mean, it will be. I mean, look, I'm no big fan of Liverpool either, but to be honest, I hate Manchester United with a passion.
I'd rather them get it over Man United.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think it's funny because when we played United for the second time this season, they were talking about how they were going to overtake us, and now there's like a big gap, and I'm just like enjoying this.
They're not a great side, and you'll get pundits saying, "Oh, look, the Man United do this and that." They're not. They're not a great side. We should have beaten them in the cup final. We just didn't have a final third. We were going through a really rocky spell then during that month, especially in February. We didn't play very well. Had it been now, I think we would have beaten them. But that's just me being annoyed that we didn't win a cup.
It's a nice feeling having beaten them both home and away. It's just amazing.
We drew down there and we beat them at home, so we almost got the double over them. But obviously they got the cup final win as well. So
yeah, I kind of agree with what you said about United because there's teams this season that I thought, you know what, I really love the football they're playing, like the Newcastles, Man City. I think Brighton have done amazing, but United aren't a team that I think, wow.
I hate Manchester United. I hate all the players. I hate the fans. I hate the club. I have no respect for Manchester United at all.
Do you know what I thought was amazing? The other night when they conceded right at the end against Brighton, that penalty, because that always happens to them. They always get penalties.
Exactly. But you look at the way, like West Ham, a clear penalty against Lindelof for handball, no penalty. Then the goal that was disallowed, De Gea went down like he'd been shot in the face from 3 yards. He just brushed against Antonio's arm. That goal should have stood. And they were doing everything they could to get Manchester United back into the game. And that's what annoys me about everything around the Premier League, to be honest.
But I always feel like the referees are on their side as well. Like when I'm watching it's like they want to give them the penalties to win. And I'm honestly,
the penalties Liverpool have been given lately, I mean, Jesus, it's mental. It really is. And it's not fair on the... West Ham, they're fighting against relegation. If they'd have lost that game to Manchester United, they were in deep trouble.
Yeah.
And they would have only lost that game on Sunday due to bad officiating, not bad play from West Ham. Because West Ham deserved to win that game massively. So, how much help Liverpool and Man United are going to get in the running, we'll just have to wait and see. I have a feeling there's a lot of big decisions going to go their way over the next few weeks.
I think it's going to be. I'm excited to see that in the top 4 with the league. More nervous than excited, really. I think it'll be hard for Man City to drop points. They are playing Madrid tonight, I think. So we'll have to see what happens there. But I really enjoyed chatting with you today.
I've had
an absolute nightmare of technology, but that didn't stop us.
No, it would. Technology will never beat us. Never.
So before you go, do you want to tell people where they can find you on social media? I know you've got the Toon Review, that's your channel.
The Toon Review YouTube channel. We're on the way to 20,000 which if you told me that a couple of years ago, I'd have laughed in the face. Started off with my little phone on my kitchen table. But everybody starts somewhere, and you
got to start somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's why when you're putting on that you're up to 1,600 now, and you've got to keep. And that's what I like to do. I like to, share other people's channels. I don't care who the support, we've had you on the show. We've put your channel up there and things like that. And it's good to see your channel growing. So yeah, the Toon Review on YouTube, and it's the Toon Review at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook groups, TikTok. Susan handles TikTok. My fiance she handles TikTok. I wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, you can't handle it. I don't
no chance. She tries to get me to do these stupid little things like performing chimp. Not for me.
I can't figure out how to use it. I've tried to, but it's just not for me, I don't think.
I do a couple of the little filter things, but as for like sort of videos and stuff, I wouldn't have a bloody clue, to be honest. So yeah, but you can find just the Toon Review everywhere on the socials.
Yeah, and I'll put your YouTube in the description as well, and make sure to subscribe. But yeah, thank you so much, for joining me today. And to those that are watching this, when I upload it, I hope you all enjoyed it too.
You're very welcome.
I will see you all very soon. Bye.